the track, boy.
Hey, what's up? It's Nate the Great from Flight 214, and yes, it has been a while, but the site has been taking a lot of my time lately, and Christmas holiday was absolutely crazy, but hey, I'm not complaining. And the important thing is I am back. So I was reading through the comment section because yes, I do actually read and respond to the comments. And one of the viewers from our Evolution of Hip Hop fashion video suggested that we make one on the history of hip hop jewelry. Well, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. So I present to you the evolution of hip hop jewelry, a complete history from start to now. But before we start, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you really like, subscribe to our channel for updates whenever we drop new videos that we will be getting back to dropping on a regular basis. No, really, I promise. The 70s, a decade that brought us the Vietnam War, Tricky Dick Nixon, and blaxploitation films. But it was also the decade that birthed hip-hop, popularized by DJ Kool Herc in the early 1970s at his famous block parties. I won't really go into too much detail about the history of hip-hop. If you want that, may I suggest The Evolution of Hip-Hop, the Netflix documentary. If you hadn't seen this, actually pretty entertaining series for any hip-hop fan and educational for some of you youngsters out there. But at this time, early rappers were struggling to make it and certainly not banking enough to floss too hard. But over time, as hip-hop has always been deeply rooted in the streets, and the streets love to shine, it didn't take long for gold to introduce itself into a long-term relationship with the game. As rap became a larger affair and the opportunities for higher earning potential presented itself, it was just a matter of time. Kurtis Blow gets credit for the first rapper in recorded history to sport gold chains on his self-titled debut album cover. And coincidentally, Kurtis Blow was also the first to certify a gold hip-hop record. So yeah, more cash, more flash. Yes, I know. The necklaces were so small that they gave a new meaning to the term micro chain. But before we go too hard on the microscopic B chain choker that it looks like he stole from his girl for the shoot, let us remember, the man was a pioneer in more ways than one. But by the mid to late 1980s, hip-hop evolved beyond its disco-inspired block party roots and into a multi-dimensional art form, who with its persistence forced mainstream America to finally take notice. Guys like Eric B., Rakim, Biz Markie, and Slick Rick were becoming household names now, while others like LL Cool J and Run DMC began to achieve huge success with catchy production and high energy delivery. At the height of Run DMC's run, yeah, pun intended, Adidas gave them a solid gold shell toe as a show of appreciation for all the Adidas standing that the group had done. But more so, the group ushered in a new look, the giant dookie rope, along with gold rings and watches, and suddenly rappers all over the East Coast began to pick up on it. The aforementioned LL Cool J was actually the first to popularize the iconic four-finger ring, but it was Biz Markie who took it a step further and was the first to flood his with drip. In '87, Eric B. and Rakim dropped the Paid in Full album, and by then you could begin to see things take form. The duo appeared clad in Gucci print street customs by Dapper Dan that the NYC streets loved at the time. For more on that, check out our video on the checkered history of Gucci and Dapper Dan, and or our history of hip-hop fashion video. But anyway, along with the actual money print background, as you can see, they were also sporting a copious amount of gold. In fact, Ben Baller of IF and Company Jewelry established that the value of the chains alone were $100,000 each. Slick Rick probably takes the literal crown in 1980s hip-hop jewelry absurdity. And one look at this picture and I think you can understand what I mean. With huge gold chains, up to a dozen at a time, giant gold rings on each finger, and a real crown and scepter, the I-Patch the Rapper pioneered the oversized jewelry look. The opulence actually became competitive. Mr. C, Big Daddy Kane's longtime DJ, explained how, quote, between Kane, Slick Rick, and Biz Markie, just those three, I can remember if one person got something, the next person got something else, end quote. All three of them played the Apollo at the same time, so if they had a big show, it would be the perfect place to display new pieces. The early to mid 90s saw a bit of a toned down look, Gone were the four-finger rings and oversized dookie ropes, as rappers like Notorious Big opted for a more simple affair. His iconic Jesus piece, designed by Tito the Jeweler, was actually the last chain that he ever wore. It would turn into a good luck charm of sorts, oddly enough, being worn by both Jay-Z and Lil' Kim during the creation of their albums. Since his passing, the Jesus piece has arguably become the most popular pendant of all time. Because really, who doesn't recognize the Jesus piece? I mean, depending on your age, you may not have associated it with Biggie, but you know the piece. And now you know the origin. It was also at this time that rap became increasingly corporate. Before, many thought that hip-hop was nothing more than a flash-in-the-pan phenomenon, a fad that wouldn't last no more than a couple of years. By the early 90s, hip-hop had organized into an industry all its own. Solo artists transitioned into executives, and informal street crews banded together to form companies. By the mid-90s, hip-hop was not only a multi-billion-dollar industry, but was fast approaching the top-selling genre by the numbers. It was around this time that Jay-Z upped the stakes by introducing high-priced platinum pieces to the masses. And I'll admit, at the time I was floored. Like, wait, you mean there's precious metals more valuable than gold? Yes. Yes, there is. While $10,000 was a lot to spend on a chain back in the 80s, Roc-A-Fella members, namely Dame and Biggs, thought nothing of spending $200,000 each with Jacob the Jeweler in their peak. And this was also before Jacob ran into his legal trouble, but hey, that's another video for another day. It was also around this time that pendants switched from being a mere status symbol to billboards advertising the rappers' respective labels. It's hard to say which label was the first to mint the custom logo pendants, but companies like Death Row, No Limit, and the aforementioned Roc-A-Fella, to name a few, still stick in memory today. In '99, Nas introduced us to his King Tut chain, a pendant filled with diamonds and is estimated to be worth $65,000. This level of spending marked a period of transition in rap. Rappers were no longer just rappers. For the first time, hip-hop fans were familiarized with the term hip-hop mogul. As the new millennium neared, Jay-Z, Diddy, Dr. Dre, and others were branching out and dabbling into other areas of industry, catapulted by the name and buzz that they had gained from rap. And what better way of showing increased earning potential? Gaudy jewelry. By the early 2000s, the bigger the chain, the better. Pendants grew huge again, but only this time they were flooded with diamonds and often casted in platinum rather than gold. Now the game was focused on the length of the chain and the visuals and size of the pendant. It was around this time that hip-hop jewelry reached the all-time level of ridiculous. There was the Lil Jon Crunk Ain't Dead piece, Ghostface's wrist eagle bracelet, the Rick Ross self-portrait, and who could forget T-Pain's literal big-ass chain. By 2005, the South had officially entered the game, and they brought with them a southern fried flair to hip-hop flash. Thanks to Nelly and Paul Wall, just to name a few, grills have been reintroduced to hip-hop fashion. I say reintroduced because although the origin of gold teeth has been debated, it can be argued that the trend originated in New York in the 80s. But what is consensus is that the South pretty much started the diamond and jewelry encrusted dental accessory look. Or if they didn't start it, they definitely popularized it. Lil Wayne even set sort of a record for the most expensive grill in hip-hop at the time by dropping $150,000 on his. And speaking of Lil Wayne, Birdman would often brag of having all 32 teeth replaced with platinum and diamond-clad choppers. They even bestowed the game with a drip anthem, an ode to the evolution of hip-hop jewelry as of 2004, if you will. Bling bling became part of the American lexicon, and suddenly everybody from Asian jewelers at your local swap meet to elderly citizens were referring to gold and diamond add-ons by this extremely annoying and by now painfully corny term. It went so far that in April 2004, bling bling was even added to the Oxford English Dictionary. Not only were some of the most unassuming individuals now familiar with rap world terminology, but they had began to partake. And there was a time where seemingly everyone had a grill. And I do mean everyone. Chains that rappers wore back in the 80s and early 90s might have cost $10,000, $20,000 at best. The $100,000 that Eric B. and Rakim spent on the chains on the Paid in Full album was considered a big deal at the time. But today, you'd be lucky to get a solid gold Rolex Daytona with no diamonds for that. And speaking of watches, they've always had a presence since back in the days of Slick Rick, but as the years progressed, they became heavier and heavier with more and more stones. At the turn of the century, the introduction of digital downloads severely cut into the profits of record companies. Because why pay for something that you can get for free, right? But the income trim didn't force your favorite rapper to pass on ridiculously opulent jewelry. They just changed the type of jewelry that they wore. Gold has made a comeback as platinum has become a bit too rich for the budget probably. And as a wise man once said, gold is for the honey, so it's always good. For a while, micro chains were a thing. And you gotta admit that going from this to this is a bit of a transition, to put it lightly. Micro chains eventually ran their course and we saw a resurgence of chunky chains, only now they were a lot shorter. Rather than rocking necklaces that hung down to your crotch, which was very impractical and quite uncomfortable, I might add, if you can imagine, guys were opting for iced out choker chains. Which brings us to where we are today. Although the size of chains have gotten slightly smaller, they're no less extravagant. Rappers are still spending a pretty penny on them, and we really only covered neckwear and grills. You still have watches, which we really didn't go into, rings, sunglasses, and etc. that can run into the hundreds of thousands, proving that if you're gonna be a rapper and you want to keep up with the look, it can get really expensive. Over the years, we've witnessed not only the evolution of hip-hop jewelry, but the development of the industry itself. In the beginning, hip-hop was a medium for poor ghetto kids, segregated and subjected people of color of lower income brackets. It was rooted in activism and resistance, not just partying and materialism. Rap was music for people who could probably never imagine themselves adorned in diamonds and precious metals. Make of that what you will, but it's only natural for the have-nots to want to, have. Even before rap existed, kids in the hood idolized the local pimps and drug dealers because of the illusion of success that they gave off, partly through their jewelry. So when a select few were able to climb out of the pits and into the ranks of the rich via rap, they wanted to flaunt it. And they really flaunted it. So what do you think? Anything we missed? Want to get your opinion on the many eras of hip-hop jewelry? Hit us up in the comment section and let us hear what you think. We do respond to comments and we love to have spirited debates on any and all topics. So if you forgot earlier, don't forget to hit the like button, then the subscribe button, and then the notification button to be notified whenever we drop new videos. I'm Nate the Great from Flight 214, signing out till next time.